Hey, Dan.
You're running the pre-meeting slideshow now, eh?
Somewhat, yeah.
Okay. What do you mean, somewhat?
I just have a single slide that's up right now.
Yeah, that's it. That's
Yes.
all we have for tonight.
Well, we could have more if I had gotten around to doing it, but I didn't.
I see. All right. Well,
And we have our guest presenter tonight, Karen. She's waving at you.
yes. Hello, Karen. I see you're muted.
Hi, how are you?
Now you're not. Okay. So, who do you work for, Karen?
I'm a professor at UTA, UT Arlington in the School of Social Work, but I am active with the Climate Reality Project.
Okay. Well, you'll be introduced formally before you begin your talk. I just couldn't remember what I read on our newsletter. So let's see then. That's up. Douglas May. John Gentry is with us.
Yes, he's doing the recording.
Is he still doing that?
Yeah.
Okay. And Douglas May. Hello, Douglas.
Hello, how you doing?
Good. Can't see you, Douglas. You haven't joined with video, I guess.
No, sir, unfortunately I can't.
Okay. And S. Lecomte. Hello, S. Lecomte.
Hi, I am actually joining on the phone as well, and I'm not usually turning on my video.
Okay,
I'm actually a member, but I'm using a different email address. But anyway, I don't know how you want me to verify myself or something. This is my first time.
No, these meetings are open to the general public. We're glad to have anybody who wants to attend. You don't have to be a member.
Oh, okay. All right.
But you say you are a member
Correct.
of the Dallas Sierra Club?
The national one for many, many years.
Okay, do you live in Dallas?
Yes.
Well, you should join the Dallas Sierra Club.
I do receive your newsletter all the time. Yeah.
Yes.
Is that part of the joining then? Yeah. So
No, that's not. That's something you can get free off of our website as well. Oh, John, you're running some new slides now, huh? Texas Instruments, what's this about? Nobody wants to talk except me. That's usually the case. There's Arthur.
Hello.
Are you running new slides now, John? He won't even answer me.
He's muted.
I know he's.
I said it shouldn't be.
These are some new slides you're running at this point?
Like I said, there should not be. There should be just the one that I had there.
Well, I've got news for you. There's a regular slideshow going on here. Here comes the chair. Here comes the leader from the chair's pictures.
Okay. I'll be darned.
Well, I don't know. Said that, but maybe they're not coming. So now what have you done?
I am trying to figure that out, actually.
Okay, yeah, it looks like you're trying to figure it out. That's good. Stay with it.
So what's up there now?
This website has it all. Subscribe to the monthly group newsletter next month. Don't you know? Can't you see it on your screen?
Well, I thought I was seeing it before, but
Okay. Be brave, don't give up. Believe, trust, hope. I didn't know that was our motto.
that was just something I picked up. Let me see. I am going to go back to what I had before.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. Looks like a religious meeting going on here. Believe, trust, and hope.
Whatever I had was. Okay, let's stop that nonsense.
Okay, everybody that's muted, this is supposed to be the social 15 minutes before the meeting begins. I guess I'll be the only one saying anything. I've already said hi to all the people who have checked in so far. Now we've got a very nice picture of you up on the screen, John.
That's terrific. I like that part,
Mm-hmm.
I guess.
Well, Karen, I should tell you that these Zoom general meetings don't get the attendance we used to get when we met in person, but we normally will have between 20 and 30 people at these. They're going to have to start coming pretty quick, though. A lot of them won't check in till 7 because they don't want to sit here and talk like I'm doing.
Well, that is sad. I got to tell you.
I know. I know. There's nobody for me to
Well,
shoot the breeze with.
well, Molly's here. She has something to say, I'm sure, about what's going on in conservation.
Molly is here.
Yes, there she is.
I don't see her on my list of.
Molly's phone.
I'm here.
There she is. Yep, that's Molly. Where are you, Molly? Are you still down in South Texas?
I am. I'm in the office, our ranch office.
Okay. How long? When will you come back to Dallas? Ever?
I plan to. I don't know when though.
Okay.
Well, what are you doing down there? What's going on?
Well, one of the things I'm working on is checking out the areas where they're plugging some of our old orphaned wells. Finally, it took us suing the Railroad Commission, but it's finally happening. So I'm taking pictures and going out there and seeing how things are going on that. So that's pretty exciting. But then I'm also doing a lot of remote organizing. So like we just had the Dallas ISD, the first community feedback meeting, and just now finished that. So, and there will be another one on Thursday. There was something posted on the Dallas Sierra Club website about a Facebook page about that. And an email went out, and probably we'll try to get something sent out to remind people for the Thursday repeat for the people who didn't make it tonight.
So I don't know if you know this, John. Do you know that Molly manages a ranch? Got a ranch down there?
Oh, yeah. I remember
No.
the hurricane that went through, and boy, that was a mess.
Did it wreck the ranch, Molly?
Yeah, it did. It wrecked a lot of it, and a lot of it's still wrecked.
Yeah, it takes a long time for the recovery from that.
Yeah.
Molly,
still work-
Molly, it's
Yep.
good you're down there because it's supposed to be really, really cold up here for the next week.
Well, you know what? It's so weird. It's dipping down here too. It hasn't dipped here yet. It was in the 80s today, the mid 80s.
Whoa.
But we're going to have a few days next week where it will get down in the 20s at night. So people will be freaking out.
Yes.
And I'm going to have to layer everything I brought down here.
If you're expecting 80 degrees, I guess.
Yeah.
You guys did have a piece of good news in that neck of the woods as far as the intercoastal waterway, the Harbor Island. I can't remember, TCAQ denied the permit for them to dump the saline from the proposed desalinization plant into the intercoastal, which I
Yeah.
thought was pretty darn good. I hope they continue with that and make them.
I hope so. I see that on the local news a lot. It's still a big issue. Just the desalination plants. They're two proposed.
Where's the second one?
I don't
proposed?
know exactly. They're both in the Corpus araea, but I'm not sure precisely where they both would be located.
Because I know that Harbor Island one is right there at Aransas Pass, Port Aransas, and it's less than 20 miles from the wildlife refuge where the whooping crane overwinter.
Yeah.
And geez,
Well, that's interesting though, because we've got a double-edged sword here. When Corpus is running out of water, of course, because they have limited freshwater supply coming from the Nueces River and the reservoirs on it, desalination of seawater is one of the ways we're going to make more fresh water. But the problem is, what do we do with all that salt?
well, you're forgetting that the purpose of the desalinization plant has nothing whatsoever to do with people. It's all for the industry. 100% of the water goes to the industry.
And
That's
yeah, they
it.
have, good point. They are putting up some huge plants to a gigantic plastics plant that Exxon's putting in, and a big steel plant that they're under construction right now down here. And it's because they have all of this cheap natural gas that's being piped in there. And so they're wanting to have heavy industry there, and others are looking at being in the same area as well. So absolutely, that's where most of the water is going to go.
Well, we have another double-edged sword, because those industries will provide a lot of jobs for people that live in that area, and they want those jobs. And of course, Corpus Christi wants growth, like all urban areas do. So we have a lot of double-edged swords swinging around in the air.
Most of it's going to cut against stuff that those of us who are environmentalists are very, very concerned about. One announcement or piece of information is that the last election for the state chapter, 2 people from Corpus Christi are now on the state chapter board. Actually 3, when you consider 2 at large and 1 representing Corpus Christi, which is good news as far as getting the chapter involved in more of the issues on the coast.
Mhm.
I don't know if you know them. You might, Molly. Kara, I can't remember the last name, and Eli. Oh, I remember the first names and not the last. I'm sorry. But they're both from Corpus.
The names sound familiar, but I haven't been active in the Corpus group.
Okay.
Well, I think that's 7 o'clock.
Oh, I should let some people in who want to come in.
I think you should let them all in,
Yeah.
unless
Liz?
you have a reason not to.
Well, should I let Liz in?
No, I don't know about this.
Let's see. We have 26 people as soon as Liz is in.
Okay. Well, that's about what we're gonna get probably is Victoria.
Victoria's here, yes. She
She's
came
here.
in.
Okay. Well, it's likely we're not gonna get a lot more than 26 people. Who is Mary J. Lobb, SA?
I'm a Sierra Club member. I don't, I guess
What
I've
is
been,
SA, San Antonio?
oh, no, it's, I'm in Dallas, Richardson.
Oh, okay.
I live in Richardson.
What is that after your name? Mary J. Lobb, SA, ...
I'm not sure, maybe Samsung. I have a Samsung notebook or a pad.
Okay. All right, that's
Notebook.
probably it. Well, we are past 7 o'clock, which is our starting time. How many people have joined us, John?
27, one other makes it 27.
Okay, we're going to start the meeting now. And we'll start off first with anybody that wants to make some kind of announcement. Is there anybody that wants to make an announcement?
Arthur, do you want to give an
Anytime.
update on outings or do you want me to?
I can give an update on outings.
Well, wait a minute, wait, guys. We'll
Okay.
do that. We'll do committee reports.
Okay.
Okay,
You can,
Sorry,
and then you can
misunderstood.
give the announcements.
We're trying to
then.
jump ahead of you.
Don't jump ahead now. So there's no other announcements about events and so on that are going to take place.
This is
Molly.
Molly. I'd just like to mention that there will be another Dallas ISD community input on the environmental and sustainability proposals, and that will be at 5:30 this Thursday. And go to the Dallas Sierra Club Facebook page, and you can get the details of how to get onto that virtual call and presentation.
Okay,
Turn DISD green.
and Victoria. Hello, Victoria.
Yes,
You will
I'm here.
send out, prior to that, will you send out another alert?
I can send out another alert. I'm happy to do that. I was actually on the call tonight with Molly, and Molly, congratulations, wonderful presentation. Molly and her crew, the other people involved, made their presentation shareable on several Google Docs. So if for some reason you can't make the meeting on Thursday, let me or Molly know, and I will gladly share those with you. I was really, really impressed. And I was also really impressed with the feedback of the people that attended. So if you have time Thursday, even if you're not a resident of Dallas, I highly recommend you attend this meeting because, you know, as Dallas goes, so will Plano Independent School District, Allen, all of the surrounding communities will take note of this. So even if you're not a resident and it doesn't directly affect you, this is a time to impact change for your community, maybe a little bit down the road.
Okay, I'm always impressed with Molly's presentations.
Molly's the best. She rocks.
She is the best.
Well,
And-
it was actually a group effort, so I can't take credit for all of it, but thank you.
Oh, that's okay. Go ahead and take credit.
That's right. Take credit, Molly. You deserve
Take
it.
credit. Okay. Barring further announcements, well, I'm not barring them, but if there are no further announcements, we will proceed to the committee reports, the brief committee reports. And normally we would start out with our biggest, most important committee, conservation slash, what's the slash what?
Eco action, conservation,
Eco
eco
action.
action. It's a verb. That's right.
Okay.
We're verbs. We're
And
moving.
Victoria, you're going to give that report, I assume.
I am. First of all, thank you all for being here. It is lovely to see you virtually, especially on this cold night. It's nice to stay home and do some environmentalism from the chair. We always have a lot going on in Conservation Eco Action Committee, more than I have time to tell you about. So before I touch on like 3 highlights of things that we're working on, I highly recommend, if you have not done so already, to go to the Dallas Sierra Club website, click on the top tab that says conservation, and enter your email address so that we have it in our email list. And as big issues come up, we send out email reminders. Of course, I'll put it on Facebook and Twitter, but we would love to have everyone and anyone involved, big and small, in conservation because there is a lot to do. And Dallas is really on the cusp of doing some innovative things. So after that shameless plug, the big things that we have going on so far is at the end of January, I'm not sure how many of you all were able to attend, but the EPA held a community meeting in regards to the Superfund site of lane plating. And for those of you who don't know, lane plating is near the intersection of Loop 12 and 45, more specifically Bonnie View, and Loop 12. And so I found their presentation to be really, really illuminating and also really, really scary with the amount of chemical and lead contamination that there is in the ground around there. This is going to be a multi-year job that we all tackle, that the communities around lane plating tackle, and hopefully the EPA continues to help. So for those of you who perhaps missed the meeting or want information on it or what happened, please feel free to email me, victoria@dallassierraclub.org. I'm on the webpage. If you missed my web or email address there will be more EPA hearings. They're guessing in June. They're going to begin the EPA to start testing soil samples in some of the neighborhoods around lane plating. Up to this point, they've only done soil samples on the lane plating property. So this is going to determine a lot of where the contamination has gone with water flow, so on and so forth. So that's a big one. The second thing, Molly nicely mentioned already, the Dallas ISD public meeting. There's another one on Thursday. I posted all the information on Facebook. I did send out an email about it. If you missed it, feel free to let me know. I will post everything again Thursday. And lastly, kind of a fun request that I have for you. If there are any artists or budding artists who would like to volunteer to come out and help paint and decorate some urban garden containers, they're metal corrugated containers. The Dallas Sierra Club has sponsored one for a wonderful group, Dallas Green Careers by Tracy Wallace. And we need some help painting and decorating the tubs that we have sponsored. So again, you can messenger me on Facebook, or if you want to email me, victoria@dallassierraclub.org. And that's my spiel, Dan. Thanks a bunch.
Victoria, are the
Yes.
are the containers you're talking about actually stock troughs?
Yes, they are metal. I can send you a picture. I'm sorry that I didn't have the foresight to send.
That's all right. I
they're
know what they look
Yeah.
they look like. I just wanted to check that that's what they were.
Yes,
Okay.
so it will take a little finagling to get paint to adhere to it effectively. So that would be something that we would need to discuss before anyone goes out.
Okay. Did you put up this environmental and sustainability committee meeting?
Yes, isn't that what you wanted to display,
Yes.
Victoria?
Yes,
Okay,
thank you, John.
Okay, so is that it, Victoria?
That is it, with the caveat that I could talk anyone's ear off for an hour if you want to know. So call me.
No. You can listen for an hour.
Not
You can
now.
listen for an hour.
I do that when you call me on the phone, but not now. Okay.
You go
Hey.
into a sound coma when I talk. You just
Oh, I
get
listen to
dazed.
every
Yeah,
word.
I understand.
I listen to every single word. Okay.
Well, I appreciate you, Dan.
Thank you. I don't hear that very often, Victoria. Now let's go on to the outings committee. And Arthur, are you going to handle that?
I will. And then,
Well, before you start, I want to make one comment. You know how you're always complaining about how nobody sends you anything you can post on the newsletter, put in the newsletter?
I have made that complaint on
You
occasion.
have, and I sent you a greeting for the whole club for the new year, sent
You
it by
did.
email. Yeah, and you don't check your email, so that's why you don't get
I
anything.
do, but I have 18,000 emails. I'm sorry I
Well,
missed it.
That's a problem. I guess from now on, I'll have to call you on the phone and say,
Or
check.
text me, then say you sent it.
And okay. Because now it's too late, to send a New Year's.
Okay.
All right, go ahead, Arthur.
Okay. Well, there's nothing really to report other than the continuing delays in getting outings starting again, obviously for obvious reasons. So we have now been told by the National Sierra Club that all outings are off through the 4th of July. So it's hard to know when we will actually start having outings again. Our suspicion is that we probably won't have anything until the fall. And if COVID's not better by then it'll be pushed even further. So we're not making any plans right now. Well, we are making plans, but nothing is going to be executed until we get some go ahead from the National Sierra Club and obviously from the local authorities and wherever we're going. A lot of places are still partly shut down. Campgrounds are hard to get into and stuff like that. So it's a big problem right now, and we'll just have to see how it plays out. If the vaccinations go well, then it could turn out well, and we get started in doing stuff in the fall. If one of these other variants gets hold and it's not susceptible to the vaccinations, and we have to start all over on vaccinations, then it could be much longer and might be next year before we get started with anything. We hope not, but that's the way it is right now. So it's a big hole in the club. It's a hole financially because the outings committee and the outings we did, particularly bus trips, contributed a lot to the bottom line of the Dallas group. And that source of revenue is now gone for the near future and for all of last year too. And so it's been a bit of a struggle and a disappointment to everybody who loves the outdoors.
Right.
That's it.
Well, that $8,000 that Dick gave us from his award will help for this year, huh?
Yep.
I'll just add a note. We are continuing with the behind the scene. National has developed or updated their leader training. So there's a training that Mark and Arthur and I are doing in March, different dates. It's a 10 or 12-hour training that we're doing via Zoom that will be to train us to be better trainers with the new materials. So we're doing that behind the scene to continue to push so that we're ready to get everybody back on trail as soon as we can.
Okay, since you're on there, Liz, do you want to say anything about ICO?
Thank you. We're under the same guidelines as far as having to wait. And since historically we don't do much in the summer because of the heat, and most of the kids we work with are on a school schedule, so it will probably be fall before we do anything. That said, if anyone wins the lottery or has any fun ideas, we have to continue to pay our monthly storage for all of our equipment for the kiddos. So that's just, we're continuing on with that. But if anyone has any great ideas of someone who might want to sponsor like 1 month or something like that, I'm working on maybe getting that up and going so that we could look for maybe a sponsor a month just to kind of help ease things as we go.
Liz, do we pay the storage bill completely ourselves?
Our ICO does, yes.
Yeah.
It's $119 a month.
And that comes out of our annual budget?
It comes out of the ICO budget, not the Dallas Sierra Club budget.
Where's the ICO budget?
It's separate. It's all separate.
Okay, where's the money come from?
The money that we've raised in the past. Each ICO nationally, every ICO is responsible for their own fiscal needs independently. We don't get any money from national. The local group, you guys have been giving us some support over the years, but it's up to each ICO to raise their own funds for their own uses.
Do you have sources of funds?
We have grants that we've gotten in the past that are what has sustained us. Those grants are no longer available because of the change in their criteria. So we've kind of just been working on the money that we have, but that's why going forward, we'll be working on fundraising or looking at grant possibilities as we go forward.
Okay. A question has been submitted. What is ICO?
Oh, ICO stands for, I always want to say the old one, Inspiring Connections Outdoors, which is a National Sierra Club program. Well, it's a program basically to get people into the outdoors who without us would not have that opportunity. Historically, we have worked with kids, low-income children, And the idea is to get them out on day hikes. We've done everything from day hikes to camping trips to backpacking to trips to the Texas freshwater fisheries. The idea being if we can get them outdoors, teach them about how to do it and how to enjoy it, they'll be better conservationists and help protect the earth and our natural resources and nature and everything better as they get older. They'll make better decisions. So this is your outreach program, basically.
And of course, it emphasizes kids in underserved communities.
Yeah, we generally work with kids. We have worked with adults who were handicapped in the past when we had that opportunity, but we historically, locally it's mostly about kids.
Right. Okay, is David Griggs present? No.
I don't recall seeing him, no.
There will be no political report tonight then. What other committees? Program committee, well, we've got a program. Did I skip any committees that we need to?
Membership,
Membership. And
but he's not here.
Wendell's not. The vice chair can't take the trouble to come to these meetings. Not important enough. Okay. Yes, tell Wendell I said that, Liz.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Yeah.
I'll be at the office tomorrow with he and David, so I'll let him know.
Both of them. Give them hell, both of them.
All right.
Then Veronica, V. For Victoria. I guess you're still kind of heading up the programs committee.
Not kind of, I am.
You are.
And this was a lovely coup this evening to have Karen Magruder join us. And I have to give props to Wendell, our missing in action vice chair, for recommending her. When I booked Karen, it was probably 4 or 5 months ago, way before the attack in Washington on the 6th. And subsequently, I think Karen and I were both slightly psychic, knowing that we needed a conversation like this tonight, especially in light of all the craziness of the last couple months. So Karen, welcome. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being so gracious on the phone and the email with me. Even though I sent you stuff that was intended for another Karen, you were so kind and I really appreciate that. So without further ado, please continue with your lovely talk.
Wait, want to do?
What? Want to do?
Tell us where Karen works and what her job is there. And if you.
Well, I'm not going to steal her thunder. I'm going to let her do that.
Oh, okay. She's going to do that herself.
Yes.
Well, let me interject that Karen's presentation, if anybody has any questions, just put them in chat, and Victoria will, at the end, will go through and ask Karen the questions from the chat box, please. Is that good, Karen?
Sounds
Okay.
great. All right, you ready for me? Okay.
Right. Are we going to have any slides or anything?
Yes, I am going
Okay.
to be sharing my screen. We tested that before,
All
so
right.
it should be good to go. So thank you all so much for having me. I'm really thankful to have this opportunity. I guess a little background about myself. I am a licensed clinical social worker, and I'm the director of undergraduate programs and an assistant professor of practice at the University of Texas at Arlington School of Social Work. I also manage a small mental health therapy practice, and I'm a trained climate reality leader with the Climate Reality Project. And I currently serve on the executive committee of the Climate Reality DFW chapter as a membership and engagement chair. So just a little bit about my background before I jump into the presentation. I studied business management and psychology at the University of Arizona, have a master in social work and a certificate in climate change and health from the Yale School of Public Health. And I've worked in long-term care with older adults, doing public health, mental health treatment, and I teach an environmental justice course at UTA. So I'm going to be talking to you today about a subject that is near and dear to my heart, and I will share my screen so that you can see my presentation. right, here we go. So you should be able to see this. Coping with climate change, keeping your cool in a warming world. So in the beginning, I was blessed to be able to enjoy nature, to get out there and be able to experience all the great things that nature had to offer and really appreciated and considered myself to be a little bit of a tree hugging hippie. I was also very thankful to have the opportunity to travel a lot as a young adult. Been to about all 50 states and about 60, I think 58 countries, and just have been really fortunate to be able to see the world and appreciate the wonders of natural beauty and the environmental world, and became very concerned about how various environmental issues and climate change might affect our precious resources. My hometown, Phoenix, Arizona, is no stranger to extreme heat that is just becoming more extreme. These are some real photos of mailboxes and recycling bins melting, paint melting off of road signs, and unfortunately, it's just getting worse. So couldn't escape it there. Came to Texas and was working as a social worker in long-term care when Hurricane Harvey hit, and just really recognizing that intersection between the environmental issues that I cared about and the social justice issues I cared about as a social worker, and seeing how the older adults that I worked with, who were often the most vulnerable because of income, mobility, access to resources, were often the hardest hit by extreme weather events, and Hurricane Harvey was no exception. Volunteering in the Dallas Mega Shelter, doing crisis intervention, and just seeing that intersection of the mental health and environmental issues. Similarly, as we saw heat waves roll through over the years in Dallas, the fact that older people, are more vulnerable and susceptible to heat stroke and other heat-related issues, and again, realizing that a population that I served was having issues not just related to social things, but environmental things as well. So I wanted to get more involved and jump in and learn and make a difference. Became a climate reality leader and continued my education related to environmental issues so that I could not just care, but have some background to be able to make a difference. And jumped in feet first, trying to take action in my community at various, rallies and different events. And even my dogs got involved in saving the planet. As you can see here, they wanted to pause global warming. And I saw that the people that I was working with in these nonprofit groups that I was rallying and volunteering alongside with, they started out looking like this. And then over time, their faces looked more like this. And I thought, what happened? What changed from here to here? People were getting discouraged and burnt out. And I want to hear what you all's experiences are. So I'm going to do a little experiment here. If the technology doesn't cooperate, we can easily skip this part, but I wanted to have some interaction even in a virtual setting. So I'm going to pop over here to Poll Everywhere. Some of you may be familiar with this. So if you just, you can use your phone or your computer to either go to pollev.com/Karen Magrude 647 or text to this number. I want you to think about the environmental problems and issues that you're concerned about. How do you feel? How does it make you feel to think about the issues that you are working to address?
Can you give us that link again?
Yep, so it should be right, you should be able to see it right on top of the screen, pollev.com
Okay, got it.
Karen Magrude 647.
Past year had 5 semi-finals. And one I will show you is in the middle of nowhere. More on that one shortly. So definitely a foodie place to go. Again, more in the Salt Lake.
So we got some discouraged, probably running into a brick wall. I think it just takes one word: worried, hopeful. Scared. Tired. Yeah. So overwhelmed, stressed, scared, hopeful, discouraged, worried. All right, so I'll move on from this one, but that's kind of getting a pulse, somewhat positive, right? So we got some good and bad more coming in about how we feel, right? There's always a mix of those feelings, but I'm definitely seeing here numb. Okay, we got them coming in here. Tired. An electric vehicle. Yeah, I think it doesn't like it. I think it likes one word answers more than sentences. It might break up your sentences here. Okay, so we've got a lot of different feelings and emotions coming out of this. I'm going to switch back to my presentation here. Should be able to see that. So we've got a lot of different feelings going on about what's happening in our world, and you're not alone. A lot of research shows that there's a strong link between, as many of you know, I'm sure, preaching to the choir, between mental health and well-being, both the positive sides and the fact that we can be really overwhelmed about the different things that are going on in our world. Things like extreme heat can have an increased risk for people with mental illness. There's all these different things that you might be worried about and stressing about. You might even be experiencing environmental or ecological grief. Grief can not just happen when a loved one dies, right? It can happen when we lose a job or lose a beloved space or anticipate that anticipatory grief. And eco-anxiety is becoming a more accepted way to label and explain these feelings that I think many of us can relate to. And it makes sense. If you just look, comparing, beautiful, serene mountaintops to ones that are blasted out for mining, doesn't have the same tranquil effect looking at the picture in the right. And thinking about a lot of the statistics, you all are probably well aware that climate change is the biggest global threat of the 21st century, and that business as usual projections are having potentially catastrophic results forecasted, not to mention all the other climate related environmental justice issues like conservation, food deserts, and toxic waste. So thinking about you, do you ever feel overwhelmed by the complexity and enormity of the environmental problems that you care about and advocate for? Do you ever worry that you're just one person who can't make changes on the scale that you hope for? Do you feel guilt over not being green enough? Or get frustrated with the masses or those in power that are not doing enough, not acting quickly, worrying about future impacts to you, your children, your grandchildren, not having enough resources, time, money, information, volunteers, or support to carry out what you want, not seeing the fruits of your labor, or having less energy to tackle these issues? I bet many of you can nod your head to a few of these. And as Victoria mentioned, the current events just keep coming that make us scratch our heads and wonder about how things are going. And that means that you're at risk for burnout. It's a state of physical or emotional exhaustion that involves a sense of reduced accomplishment and a loss of personal identity. It's bad for you and bad for the world, because if you're burnt out and you're not making a difference and advocating, and you're having to retreat long term, you're not going to be able to make those changes that you're hoping for. And I think of the mind and emotions as something that needs to be a sustainable, renewable resource as well. Just like we advocate for clean energy and renewable energy, you need to be able to renew and sustain your mind, and seeing your brain and body also as a renewable resource that does need that recharging too. And that's what brings me to self-care and the importance of self-care for environmental activists. My favorite one of my favorite analogies for self-care is when you're on an airplane, and they always tell you if the oxygen mask deploys, you must put your own mask on first before serving others. Why? Because you can't help little Johnny with his mask if you're passed out or dead, right? You need to be able to protect yourself first so that you can be healthy enough to then serve others. And the same goes for self-care. As you'll see soon, I want you to volunteer and make a difference and act, but it's also important to take care of yourself so that you can come from that place of wholeness and fullness and not, you don't have much to give if you're already fully depleted. So that's what brings me to my model. I kind of came up with an acronym to share some of the strategies that I think are the most effective based on the literature, but also just my own personal experiences and recommendations in social service and advocacy career. And so they are, it's an upstream. So understanding and having self-compassion, participating in the solution, self-talk, thankful thoughts, reducing isolation, ecotherapy, acts of self-care, and mindfulness. So we'll go through each of these in more detail. The first one is understanding and compassion. First, if you're feeling this way, you're not alone. You already saw that in our word cloud, that many of us might have some of those negative emotions. A 2018 Yale University report said that 60% of Americans are worried and 20% very worried about global warming. And 45% report feeling helpless or very, very helpless. And then other common emotions included anger, fear, outrage, and disgust. So you're not the only one feeling this way. And having compassion for yourself, that it makes sense. If you go back to famed psychologist Abraham Maslow and his hierarchy of needs, he has these different levels of what people need. And you can only, as the theory goes, climb up the pyramid or up the ladder once you've achieved the bottom rung. Well, thinking about our environment being depleted, that's right at the bottom with safety and even physiological needs. And so it's really threatening and getting that, the limbic system, the kind of primitive part of your brain fired up and worried and stressing and anxious because it's survival at the base of it. And so having that compassion for yourself, that you're not always going to be feeling positive and perky and optimistic about everything, and that you're not alone, and it's okay and quite reasonable that you feel discouraged at times. Having understanding for yourself and others as well. So when others are feeling discouraged or having a hard time, or maybe needing to step away because they're burnt out, certainly that can be a burden on yourself. But I think you would rather be more like this than more like these. And so the more that you can practice that understanding and compassion, both inward and outward, it's going to help reduce a lot of that stress. Second is participating in the solution at the micro, meso, and macro level, doing everything you can. You hear about those things that you can do to reduce your carbon footprint, but you all know that it requires much larger action than that. And many of you are already actively engaged in doing this. And my message of self-care is not to bury your head in the sand and navel gaze and stop acting. It's to create that balance and harmony, to combat that psychic numbing. Roger Knudsen, who's part of Climate Reality and is on the call today, has talked with me a lot about this concept from Robert J. Lifton of just wanting to combat that psychic numbing that can come with the trauma and fear of such a large scale issue. By helping others, you help yourself. I'm sure you've experienced that. Being able to get out and do something can make you actually feel better. Increases that sense of control, fulfillment, and flow where you're really in the zone and just in the moment in time kind of melts away. Of course, I want you to also make a difference and make an impact on these issues. And of course, I have to plug one of the things you can do as part of the solution is becoming trained as a climate reality leader as well. The next is self-talk. Oh, and they have another virtual training that they just announced that's on Earth Day, April 22nd. So you're welcome to reach out to me if you're interested in that. The next one is self-talk, kind of in the same vein as the compassion, but is the way that you talk to yourself about what's happening or will happen helpful or harmful for your mental health? One golden rule is don't should on yourself. This is from Albert Ellis, and it's basically this idea that if you're always saying, well, I should do that and I should do this, it can be a catalyst for action and helping you to get to the things that you need to be doing that would be helpful for you. But sometimes it's just going to make yourself feel worse. And so judging yourself for feeling tired, overwhelmed, or worried is not helpful. You will never speak to anyone more than you speak to yourself in your head. So being kind to yourself in your self-talk. Avoiding cognitive distortions, which is basically unhelpful ways of thinking. So certainly negative thinking can be accurate. So I'm not trying to say that you need to have these, rose-colored glasses and be a Pollyanna. Sometimes that's just the reality of the situation. But challenging yourself, are there times where you're always discounting positive progress that you or your committee maybe has made? Are you thinking all in black and white and not looking at the kind of gray zone in the middle? Are you catastrophizing more than you need to, or mind reading what others are doing? Emotional reasoning. I feel this way, therefore that must be true. I feel like a failure, therefore I must be a failure. Or taking things personally as well, when perhaps the person who made you feel bad, it was not a personal, attack at all. So those types of things are what I'm thinking about with self-talk. You can learn a lot more just kind of Googling cognitive distortions. There's a lot of materials out there about ways to reframe your thinking that might be more helpful. The next is thankful thoughts. Lots of research shows the power of gratitude, and that truly taking a moment to pause and reflect on the things that are going well in your personal life or with your environmental advocacy, with Sierra Club, whatever that is, really does make a difference in helping you to have that more sustainable mind frame. Reducing isolation, which I know is hard to do right now. Of course, be safe, but research shows again and again that one of, if not the most important factor linked to happiness is the quality of our personal relationships. And so even if that means having yet another Zoom call with somebody, make time for that and make sure that you're getting that support from like-minded people, especially who understand your struggle, right? I've got family members, I'm sure you do too, who don't sympathize with the work that I do on environmental issues, who don't see it as a crisis, and who aren't going to understand if I am having a bad day and feel frustrated by that. But surrounding yourself with those people that make you feel encouraged, built up, energized, and having people in your corner that understand and can give good advice for getting through those difficult times shouldn't be taken for granted. Ecotherapy is also becoming to be a growing field. I'm a part of a Texas ecotherapist Facebook group, and there's more and more folks that are incorporating nature into their practice. Maybe that's as simple as asking their therapy clients to do some homework of doing nature-based mindfulness activities. You may have heard of Shinrin-yoku, which is a Japanese term for forest bathing, this idea of just being out in the forest and healing from those natural elements. Even incorporating nature themes like seasons as a metaphor and analogy for getting through mental health issues. And so unfortunately right now, there's not really a great single directory where you can look up an ecotherapist and just connect right to someone. But usually when there's those directories that you find online, they'll have specialties. And if you're interested in seeking someone, I can certainly do some referrals as well to ecotherapists in the area. Although again, some of this work is often done in person and some of that is limited at the moment. But you can certainly do this informally, as I'm sure many of you have, and in just being out in the world and enjoying the therapeutic benefits of that. Acts of self-care. My other favorite analogy about self-care beyond the oxygen mask is sharpening the saw. This comes from Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. This is one of the 7 habits. And the idea goes something like this. that if you are, sawing wood or chopping wood and you're being really productive and you're just chop, 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 getting through things and you keep going and going and going, eventually your blade is going to get a little bit dull. But you might be working so hard that you don't want to stop. You don't want to stop and take a break and sharpen your axe. You just want to keep going and going, and you become more tired and less productive, and your tool is less effective. If you were to take a step back and sharpen the saw, when you come back, that tool is much sharper and more effective and more productive. And so thinking of our minds and bodies that same way, that doesn't mean that you stop chopping wood forever. It just means that you take some time intentionally to sharpen that saw, whatever that looks like for you. And so now we have our second Pull Everywhere question. So I'm going to go back here. I'm going to deactivate this one, and I'm going to activate this one. So now there's a new question. You should be able to use the same link. So pullev.com/Karen McGroot. Yep. Okay. So we've got people that are already in. So the link is up at the top there. So we have hiking, wine, baths, yoga, napping, prayer, TV, gardening, biking, walking the dog. See what else we have. Hiking is a popular one, and yoga. I see that. Bird watching, dancing, walking, sleep. Love this. We got more and more coming in. Laughing. Yes, laughter can be a good medicine, that's for sure. Give it another minute if others want to. And you can actually respond more than once. So if you have others that you want to add. A technology break. Yep. Got reading. All right, so I'm gonna recap what we have here: walking the dog, gardening, driving, laughing, exercise, nap, oh goodness, biking, yoga, Sudoku, animals, travel. Awesome. Prayer. So as you can see, these different things, of course, are just as unique as every individual here. And what works for me is not always going to work for you. Some of these are free. Some of these are not going to take very much time to do at all. Evangelizing, yep, journaling, Scrabble, comics. Yeah, so maybe you can get some ideas from this list, Tai Chi, and see what works for you. Maybe it's trying something new, or maybe it's going to the old standby that you know is helpful for you, but you just don't always make enough time to do that. All right, so I'm gonna close out of this one and go back almost at the end here. So taking time for those acts of self-care. And then mindfulness. It is so easy. I find particularly now that so much of life is online, my work is online, it is so easy to multitask. And the more that you can just unplug, be present focused, mindful instead of having your mind full, the more that you're going to be able to fully enjoy each present moment. So mindfulness is defined by Jon Kabat-Zinn, who's my favorite mindfulness guru, as basically the non-judgmental awareness of the present moment. That's it. You don't have to be a Buddhist Zen master. You don't have to be an expert on meditation. It's really just paying attention right now in the present moment without judgment of what's happening. Sure, you can mindfully meditate, but you can also mindfully walk. You can mindfully do the dishes. And as long as you are here now in the present moment and focusing on that, that's going to do wonders. And research has shown time and time again that actually it can even change the physical shape and size of different parts of your brain to create more peace and tranquility the more you practice and intentionally cultivate mindfulness. Some final thoughts as I conclude here is this idea of knowing versus doing. Probably a lot of the things that I shared with you today were not brand new to you. I bet you had heard some of those things before, maybe all of it. And I hope that you found some good nuggets of wisdom and some good ideas and advice. But even if you had heard some of these things before, chances are you are not a master at practicing doing those things. We know that broccoli is good for us. We know that you need to get 8 hours of sleep every night. And we know that you shouldn't, have too much fat or salt or sugar or processed foods or all these different things, right? That doesn't mean that we always get our 8 hours of sleep. We always choose the right foods. And the same is true for self-care. And so I encourage you to go beyond knowing what you should do and getting in the habit of actively practicing doing those things. So I have some of my references and some of the folks and books that I've referenced as I've talked through here. I will stop sharing and be able to engage in some dialogue if we have time for that. But if you want to contact me, this is my email, karenjmagruder@gmail.com. So I will stop share and see what, if we have any discussion or questions or insults, anything.
It looks like, Karen, can you see in the chat? It looks like John Lingenfelder had a question for you. And the question was, I'll read it out for everyone. It says, I wonder about how the anti-abortion movement, which had little widespread support 40 years ago, was able to be incredibly successful today. What can be learned from this, which could be used to bring the same level of success regarding the problem of climate change? Good question, John.
Yes, that's a great question. Thank you for reading that. I don't see it. I only see Alicia's chat in the chat. So thank you for reading that out. I don't know. The short answer, I am not well versed enough in that social movement to really be able to analyze the different features that helped there be success, at this time. I think certainly timing can be a part of it, but I'm sure that there are a number of factors in terms of the efficacy of different advocacy movements related to that. So I don't have a lot of wisdom on that topic, although certainly I welcome if there's others who have thoughts on that to jump in.
Does anyone have a comment or question or a reaction to John's question?
I was just going to comment, not about John's question. I didn't have anything to say to that, but I just really enjoyed your talk. And I couldn't master my technology to respond, but I was going to add one thing for self-care or enjoyment is doing music. And I couldn't find a way to get that across to add to the long list.
I love that.
Thank you so much.
Do you like listening to music, or are you a musician?
Both. I do both. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Very important, I think, to a lot of people.
Definitely.
Okay, can you all hear me?
Yes.
I've messed up something, so I'm struggling with my screen, but well, Karen, thank you very much. That was a thought-provoking presentation, kind of thing I don't think about much, that perhaps I ought to think about more. So does anyone have any further questions for Karen?
I wonder if it's not inconvenient, if you could just put a flashback to the second to the last screen that were the resources.
Oh, the references? Yeah, sure.
References just
Absolutely.
for a quick minute. I
Yep.
was going to try to take a picture.
Yep, sure can. And
And I thoroughly enjoyed your talk. I just couldn't find the chat button to unmute it for a second.
that's okay. Thank you so much. Okay, so I'm gonna make this. Oh, there we go.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Of course, there's a number of excellent resources, specifically even on emotional. I was going to say this one, emotional resiliency in the era of climate change. This is more for mental health clinicians, but I think can be really accessible to the general public as well. There's books on ecotherapy. There's a number. These are just some of the ones that I had referenced specifically. But of course, you've got books about how nature can be curative. I know I've heard a lot of hype about the well-gardened mind, and I saw gardening was one of the top things that made it in there. That's a good one too. I don't have listed here.
I would just like to add that for everybody, in case you want to review what Karen has done, this presentation is being recorded, and it will be link will be published on our website, DallasSierraClub.org.
And I also wrote a brief blog post that sort of summarizes some of this material that is on the Climate Reality DFW website. So I can maybe, if I get a second, to post that chat or pass that along to Victoria if anyone's interested in reading the blog as well.
Also, Karen, we have a couple new questions too, if I may. Were you finished with that thought? May I read those to you?
Yes, please, go ahead.
Okay, so the first one is from Ashlyn Stevens, and she asks, what are some informational resources regarding vulnerable populations and the effects of climate change?
That's a great question. There are a number of books out there. I'm trying to think what would be the top ones. I don't know. I'm kind of blanking on some specific titles. I live so much by, I don't have my bookcase with me. If I could turn and be like, these are some of my favorite ones. I have actually read a lot more kind of academic articles being in the academic space. So Robert Bullard is kind of the father of environmental justice, and he wrote some academic literature and also more book stuff. So really anything by Bullard, Robert Bullard, I think would be a fantastic starting point, particularly in the realm of environmental racism. But there are books on climate justice, environmental justice, and then looking specifically at certain populations as well. So I could kind of look through. I don't know off the cuff, especially this being recorded, if I want to just throw out, the first things that come to mind. I want to be more thoughtful about some of those reading recommendations, but I can certainly follow up about some of the ones that have been more informative for me in terms of learning more about that intersection of the vulnerability and environmental issues.
Ashlyn, why don't you, if you're comfortable with it, put your email address up for Karen, and maybe Karen can respond to you one-on-one with some of those books or thoughts that she has. Would that be okay, Karen?
Yes, that would be great.
And if I may, if you feel done with that question, we've had another question come in from Chris and Dick Gouldy, and they ask, how does one reduce anger at those who refuse to acknowledge climate change?
When you figure it out, let me know. No, I mean, I think that it kind of goes back first, I would say, to the understanding and compassion that as much as you can stretch yourself to have sympathy or understanding for someone's viewpoint, as hard as it is, I know, I get it. It's really frustrating, especially when people are just so set in their ways. But recognizing, look, I didn't come out of the womb knowing about the environment and knowing everything. And so I even had a journey to get where I am, as I'm sure many of us have to some degree or another. And so just because someone is there yet doesn't mean that there's absolutely no hope and that you can't, that you can't ever get there. I know even among some of my friends in this realm, there's differences of opinion about how much of a lost cause certain people or groups are. But I think for me, one of the first things that is helpful in reducing the feelings of the anger and frustration is that understanding of, I haven't always been exactly where I am now, and maybe you'll get there. And if not, being able to redirect and refocus those attention and efforts on the people and groups that are more open-minded and are more willing to be able to assist with those things. And kind of, again, going back to like the thankful thoughts and the gratitude and focusing on, okay, this, curmudgeon over here is not really very receptive to my message, but maybe there's these 5 other people that I can make a difference with, and focusing energies there when all else fails. But that's another one that I think perhaps others might have some good insights on too. So I'm not going to say that I'm the expert on any of this if others have ideas.
Well, and perfectly timed. Jim Domk, I hope I'm saying that correctly, suggests a book by David Pogue called How to Prepare for Climate Change, Surviving the Chaos. So that may be a good one that speaks to exactly what we're all talking about. I actually have a comment or question if I'm not cutting in front of everyone else. Karen, I specifically resonated and appreciated with your comment about mindfulness and advocacy. And I wanted to ask you if you have ever read or have experience with the author Pema Chodron, who's written a bunch of books. She is a nun in the first Buddhist monastery well, I shouldn't say monastery, I should say retreat center in North America. And her whole focus is how to create empathy and increase mindfulness, and do a technique called Tonglen, which is where when you get upset or frustrated, you try to exchange yourself for the other person. So before you react, you breathe in what they're feeling and breathe out the intent. And it's about taking a pause before you react. The reason that I share that and quasi ask this question is it is something that has served me really, really well in dealing with people who get up in your face, and think you're the devil, you're this crazy liberal, trying to get stuff changed. That has been incredibly helpful for me personally. I'm not sure if that resonates with anyone else, but I thought I'd share that.
Thank you. That's fantastic. I've heard the name, but I'm not very familiar with the work, and now I will be researching because that sounds fantastic. Yeah. I'm going to put in the chat, I think I can interact with the chat as well, a link to the blog post that I had talked about. And then I'm also was thinking about one other resource that I do feel comfortable, recommending, which is a free and everyone can kind of access it. Meredith Powers and Michaela Wrinkle are 2 social work professors, and they have put together a series of free PDF, basically workbooks, and they are focused more on education. So if you're in the education field, it can be a workbook for that, but really there's a lot of case studies and stories about particular communities and vulnerable individuals. So there's case studies on working with Indigenous populations and climate forced migration, and I mean, everything that you could think of, environmental racism. So I'm going to put that link in the chat too, because that's an easy one that you don't have to buy. You can just download it, and there's several. So I'm going to put that in the chat as a resource as well.
Okay, thank you very much, Karen, for a thought-provoking presentation. Victoria, can you tell us what our program will be next month?
Yes, next month. And by the way, thank you, Karen. Such a pleasure to have you and for bringing this. I hope you'll come back and maybe talk about this again or another topic, whatever you'd like.
Thank you so much. I hope you got a grain of something that you can use, and I really appreciate everyone's attention and for welcoming me here. Thank you.
Absolutely. You have an open invitation. And yes, to shamelessly plug next month's meeting, we have Ann Drum, who is former Dallas Sierra Club chair, in her new venture with American Promise. talking about how big money has influenced the ability to get climate action achieved with lawmakers. So that will be emotionally heavy, but very worthwhile. So please come back.
Okay, I have a question for Ryan Baggett. Hello, Ryan. Are you there, Ryan Baggett? Well, his picture is there. He must be off eating or something. Okay. Well, if there's no further questions and no further announcements, then we will say thank you to Karen. Thank you to everybody who has attended this meeting, and thanks, John, for hosting another successful meeting. And
By the skin of my teeth.
what?
By the skin of my teeth.
Yes, well,
Inside joke.
it was good. We didn't know that, it looked good from this end. So that's all that matters. So thanks, everybody, and we will see you hopefully. And by the way, Karen, you have an open invitation to join the Dallas Sierra Club anytime you want. And I think we could even get someone to pay your $15 because that's what Ginger said she would pay $15 for anybody that wants to join the Dallas Sierra Club. Okay, well, Karen's not saying anything, so I will drop that. Okay, everybody, good night. See you at the next meeting.
Good night. And remember, the presentation will be, a link to the presentation will be on our website.
Right. At YouTube, right?
Yes, I believe so.
Okie doke. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye. Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much.